Welcome back into a topic today that's going to be breaking down some of the biggest projects out there. One of them that we have looked at before has been Velo. Now, Velo, we've had on the show a couple of times. In fact, we had them on with Solana. We also had them on with Stellar. This was all brought in part through Beam's partnership. That was about July of this year. And we wanted to kind of revisit where Velo is today. So we thought, hey, let's bring in one of their key executives. So we'll have Pat joining us from Velo here in a second. He is, of course, the Chief Operating Officer of Velo Labs. And when you think about where Velo is heading, there is a lot of news to break down. This could be one that will really break down, I think, some potential opportunities of how crypto and the broader financial market is starting to go. Let's get into a couple of points. First of all, welcome to the show. Thanks for coming in today. We appreciate it.
Hi, thank you for having us again.
So a couple of points I wanted to hit on. Since the last time we had you guys on, a lot has changed, obviously, both with you guys and the market. For people who don't necessarily know who Velo is, and I know a lot of people have mentioned this in our comments before, but give us kind of a high level of what you guys are doing and solving today.
So in general, our focus has always been on building the next generation financial infrastructure utilizing blockchain technology. What we've sort of come down to what we've been focusing within the past year and going forward is what we call the PayFi infrastructure. So that means financial rails that move real money, not just tokens, across different borders, currencies, and digital assets platforms. So I think a lot of other innovations we've seen have focused on the speculationness of crypto markets, the isolated financial products. Our focus is slightly different. It's been on the settlement, liquidity, and payments layer of the financial system. This is not, something that will replace traditional layers, but would be an addition, an alternative to the traditional infrastructure that we have in the system that would try to plug in the deficiency that we see.
I see. Well, okay, so there is a lot going on in that space. Mainly here in the U.S., we've seen a lot of regulation that has been approved, obviously with the Genius Act. Things happening now with market clarity that could start to shift around, especially the settlement and liquidity layers for a lot of major companies. You have banks rolling into this, which are the traditional financial systems that obviously make a huge impact going forward. When you look at the financial system today, banks, fintechs, payment apps, FX providers, they're kind of all stacked on top of each other. Where do you guys sit in here? How do you play into this?
So just as I mentioned, we look at ourselves in the settlement and liquidity layer. I see a lot of the big players, traditional players coming in as a good thing. That means there's a real value that the technology, the crypto market itself can provide in terms of solving real world problems. So it's great that we see more players coming into the scene, especially banks or fintechs. We're not trying to replace any of these players or any consumer apps. We're trying to connect them together and provide value where there is gap within the market. So for all these financial institutions, fintechs, different platforms can use us as a bridge to move value across different currencies and networks and digital assets in different corridors that the traditional infrastructure may be lacking in terms of support. So that's why we spend so much, emphasis on the infrastructure, the compliance, the integration, rather than just the surface level, direct to consumer facing part. Because I feel like that one is built out. So we're trying to be the bridge that sort of brings everything together. Yeah.
All right. So a couple of things. We're gonna talk about the World Liberty Finance Partnership and what that looks like. But before we go there, the last time we talked, this was a roundtable that we had with Solana. So we had Lily Liu on, one of the founders of Stellar. Obviously, in your more recent appearance that you guys had, it was kind of built around tokenized gold. So there's been a lot of exploration around many of these assets, including, precious metals now being tokenized. We haven't seen tokenized silver yet, and silver market is absolutely exploding. But a lot of teams are talking about future use cases, pilots, different kinds of proof of concepts. From your vantage point right now, are you guys, first of all, what has actually changed since then when we had that last conversation that has kind of shifted the broader market for Velo?
So last time we were here, we were looking at tokenizing gold as a way to, as I said, move different values from one system to another. What has changed, especially in terms of the overall market, is that the conversation has shifted from can this really work to this is already working. So
Yeah,
from our
yeah.
side, we've moved deeper into production infrastructure. We've had real transaction volume, real institutional integrations. So more real use cases they're using what we've been building. More broadly, we're seeing other different types of assets, stablecoins, tokenized assets, digital settlements, move from just being an experiment to a bigger scale,
Hmm.
especially in Asia. So this chip is fundamental in changing how infrastructure like ours is being perceived and used.
Interesting. So this is a really kind of a dynamic shift, I think, when you consider where the market is right now. First of all, cross-border payments, what we'll see in settlement layers with international banks, maybe even nation states that are going to be growing. One thing that stands out to me is that you guys, Velo, you guys are showing up kind of on the execution rather than doing announcements, which to me, that's a big step for crypto because most of the time, as you know, we see a lot of people talking about stuff, but not many people doing stuff. So, what are some of the recent developments that we should pay attention to?
So, we have had a long time developing the different partners, the different infrastructure. So now we're actually at the executing at an institutional scale. So we
Okay.
have live TradFi infrastructure, we have active enterprise and active ecosystem partnerships, regulated digital asset products, and real world uses across different parts of Asia. So isn't about just a single partnership or different products, even though we've had
Right.
multiple announcements. It's about how we're forming an ecosystem with different partners that can come in and have different provide different values within the ecosystem. So having multiple components that reinforces each other to grow together.
I like the fact that you guys are getting more, I guess, in a way, covering so many different sectors of the market for PayFi. Because that's one of the things you either have people or projects that are very isolated into certain countries, versus what you guys obviously I know you're focusing mostly on the Asian market, but and I want to talk about that. But when you look at the biggest developments, really since we last spoke, the World Liberty Finance thing is now live. Is that right? Is it up and running?
Yes,
Okay,
yes.
so we're hearing about these partnerships all the time, but a lot of them have kind of not necessarily gone anywhere. Now that you guys are integrated with WLFI, which is the token integration, which is operational, does this actually change? What changes for Velo's ecosystem now with this integration?
So one of the key points is the integration of USD1,
Hmm.
which is a regulated stablecoin issued by BitGo Trust
Yep.
Company, into our settlement and liquidity layers. So from a system perspective, having a regulated stablecoin allows for more touch point in terms of compliance and legal. So more
Right.
institutional can use this stablecoin to move different assets. So it unlocks different parts in terms of compliance and regulations. Uh, and this enables us to be able to offer to more institutional users to be able to use our platform. So this
Yeah.
strengthens our stablecoin liquidity, supports institutional grade settlement, and allows the USD1 in addition to be used across our different ecosystem, especially in the loyalty programs and super app environment.
I like it. I like it. Well, super app environment's going to become I think, a huge thing. That may be the category that people will start to recognize in 2026 is the use case for super apps. And if you guys haven't listened in and understood what we're talking about, we've done a couple of videos on super apps and what they mean for the crypto ecosystem. So check that out in the channel. Pat, also another name that keeps coming up is CP Group. This is around kind of centered around World Liberty Financial, but are they connected? How do these two companies or these two industry titans kind of connect for
I
you
guess
guys?
a lot of people highlight the CP Group names because it's a large conglomerate company with a huge presence in Southeast Asia.
Mhm.
We're fortunate enough to have such partners to help us scale our network into different parts of Asia, into different use cases. World Liquidity Finance comes from I guess, the USD1 infrastructure
Yeah.
to help us plug in terms of that, uh, the stablecoin liquidity, being compliant. But beyond just these two names, we have other, partners of Solana we mentioned last time, to help in different parts within our ecosystem. So these strategic supports help us able to scale our product across and build new infrastructure in terms of in the PayFi ecosystem, and provide more use cases and different features that, for example, in payments, in FX, and digital assets, uh, to be used within the super app that I mentioned before.
This market could become huge. If you look at the scale, not only within Asia, you guys have mentioned Asia several times. Why focus solely or heavily, I should say, on Asia rather than say starting in the Western markets?
I think Asia, it's a very large market. And within the large market, there are different development scale that you see. But in general, I think digital wallets here are a bit more mainstream. People don't, in a lot of different markets that we are in, people don't really have credit cards, so they rely on payments through their
Yeah.
mobile, different digital wallet apps. So that behavior makes it easier for people to adopt a new digital wallet infrastructure, or
Okay.
even just plugging in our infrastructure to what they've been using on their day-to-day. So from an infrastructure standpoint, it's a more demanding environment because there's a larger population. It's a bit
Hmm.
fragmented into different countries. But if it works at scale, it's a very large market, and it means we can scale it to other regions as well. Whether that be in Africa or Latin America or even in Western, countries. So our approach is Asia first, provide utility, provide value, and then scale it out once we prove our product.
Well, I think the key there is you're going to look at adoption, which will be one of the key cornerstones of how other areas or regions will start to look at use cases that are successful. So if you guys roll out with a adoption level use case, because that's the thing right now, we're seeing adoption on stablecoins at a very high scale, kind of the point you're getting at with what World Liberty Fi is doing. And I think that's going to kind of lead into a lot of other sectors in the market that are going to explode due to this adoption. Looking ahead right now, what should people be watching for over the next, 2 to 3, 6 months for you guys? What are you guys building?
So for us, as we're deepening our, World Liberty Finance USD1 infrastructure into our payments, and PayFi workflows, uh, we're moving beyond just being the connector liquidity. We're trying to connect more to consumer-facing super apps and loyalty distribution. So bringing more of our institutional settlements to more use cases of more. I wouldn't say consumer
Right.
straight away, but a bigger scale, a larger transaction volume. So this is typical phase where we can scale our infrastructure to account for more transaction volumes that we might be seeing for this year. We're also looking, it's a buzzword, but we're also looking in terms of how to integrate AI into providing more efficiency, especially within choosing different rails for different FX rates, different settlements between different assets. So in terms of pricing, that's the efficiency we may use AI to help us navigate.
So, okay, so what you're describing, you think about this both on infrastructure level, use case, now you've got institutional partners. This is a traditional story that usually comes kind of after things have been adopted. We've seen this, Circle, of course, is a good example here in the United States. Obviously, the proliferation of what they've done with USDC, but there's also other, companies that have really started to ramp up, especially whether you look at Europe, but you guys obviously are kind of leading the way in Asia. This is usually done after it's already adopted. What do you think is why do you think the broader market hasn't fully caught up to what's being built yet? Because this seems very, very bullish.
Yeah, I mean, I think infrastructure takes a while. Obviously, it's not just developing, it's navigating, building the settlement layer, compliance frameworks, and integrating to whatever exists in the real world already. So these doesn't really happen overnight. It takes times and efforts and different talks and time to go through different, in terms of compliance, different getting regulations, being ready, getting different licenses. So it takes time for it to mature. But now I
Yeah.
think in terms of the market situation, we're seeing the fruition of all the efforts and the change in the regulations, sentiment that's been coming. So I think it's a really good time to see, that we could see, adoption happens really quickly within the next year or two. Hopefully sooner than that as well.
Yeah, and I think this is the thing that is the hidden treasure for crypto is that right now integration into these super apps, and I think also into other sectors, whether it's going to be gaming, banking, RWAs, we're going to see a layer of crypto that is, to your point, kind of hidden, much like other technology. Once technology really starts working, you don't even know it's there. So that's when you know it's doing the right thing. So it's going to be fun to watch what Velo is up to for sure. Hey, Pat, thanks so much for coming in on the show today. We appreciate it. If you like this video, hit like and subscribe, drop a comment down below, and also join our free private member group. The link is in the description.